Shalom. All praise is due to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rachak Kwadash. Double honors to the elect, apostle, bishops, elders at Great Millstone at Ruel. Shalom to elect Ak out there doing his work as a servant in truth and not for vainglory, in season, out of season. The Charlie Kirk situation. I was watching the elders from the Dallas camp, okay, and they were getting down, going into the scriptures, and Charlie Kirk, of course, he always it's just not just him, but it's all Esau, which is the so-called white man. He blames black people, Latinos and Native Americans, so-called, for all the problems that's happening in America. He blames the immigrants, so-called immigrants, and I call them so-called because Texas used to belong to the tribe of Issachar, which would be the so-called Mexicans, and he blames the tribes of Israel for all the problems that America has. Just like Charlie Kirk, he blamed black people for all the problems, but that's in the scriptures, and they're gonna pay for what they're doing, man. Okay. All right, so let's go to here. This is Psalms, the 50th chapter and the 20th verse. Okay, it says, thou sittest and speakest against thy brother. When we know Jacob and Esau were twins in the womb of Isaac and Rebekah. Okay, all right, and they were brothers. Jacob being a so-called black man that had the 12 tribes of Israel, and Esau being a so-called white man that had all the so-called white people. Okay, so Esau is our brother, but he's a wicked brother. It says, thou sittest and speakest against thy brother, thou slanderest thine own mother's son. And that's what the so-called white man does. Oh yeah, we got to send all the immigrants, as they call them, okay, all the so-called Mexicans and Argentinians and Guatemalans, and we got to send all these immigrants back to their own country. You got ICE out there, and we got to send all the Haitians and the Jamaicans and back to their own country, because they're the ones that's doing all the crime. What do you call it? The so-called Mexicans and all these other Latino tribes, they're bringing in fentanyl and they're bringing in all the drugs, when it's really Esau. It's really Esau, which is the so-called white man. He's the one that's allowing all these drugs to come into America, so that's that slander, that's that slander that he's doing. He's blaming all the problems of America on black, Latinos, and Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, and so forth, the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, and that's what he does. It's like Charlie Kirk. Oh yeah, black people doing crime, they're murdering each other, they're doing all this stuff, when it's really Esau that's the one that set this whole system up, America, to be what it is to the same very day. All the drugs is coming in, You know, they allow that shit to come in, man. Now I'm not saying that you don't have 2/3 of so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Americans not bringing drugs into America, but it's really Esau, the so-called white man, that's allowing all this stuff to take place. You know, he's the one that's uh taking lands. You know, he took the land from the North American Indians, which is America, from the Mexican Indians, okay, which is America. All right, okay. You know, he's the one that allowed, or remember, Esau used to have heroin as a medicine. You know, cocaine was in Coca-Cola. So you know, but he wants to blame it all on who? The 12 tribes of Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So it's like Charlie Kirk, man. He was, the black people, the black people, the black people are the problem. The black people are the problem. No, Esau, you're the problem of the whole fucking earth, man. Okay? All right? You're the one who's destroying the earth. Okay? By your factories and your oil refineries and your chemical refineries and dumping toxic waste in the seas and all the plastics that's in the seas. You're the one that's destroying the fucking earth. But that's what the so-called white man do. Is he gonna blame it on the 12 tribes of Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay, it says, these things has thou done, and I kept silence. So Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai allowed this man to destroy the earth, okay, for a certain amount of time, And so that's why the so-called white man really believes that, yeah, well, you know what? Let's just blame it on the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because that's what we do. We destroy the earth. We're in control. Hey, listen, like the scriptures say, Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. But let's blame it on the 12 tribes of Israel. Let's blame it on so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So he's done all this, and Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, kept silence. He hasn't judged the so-called white man yet, but he's about to judge him. These things thou hast done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes. And that's what's happening right now when you have the brothers out there, the apostles, bishops, elders, and brothers out there teaching all throughout America and all throughout the earth, teaching the downfall through the word, the prophecy of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. Esau is going to go down, which is the so-called white man. You know what I'm saying? So, and then he's literally going to do it. He's physically going to do it. He's doing it spiritually now, but Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai is doing it spiritually now, by having the prophets of the Lord prophesied his downfall, and he's going to literally do it physically. Okay. So yeah, it's over for you so-called white people. You can blame so-called Negroes, Latinos, like Trump too, man. Oh yeah, the Mexicans are bringing in fentanyl. The Argent, what do you call it? Not the Argentinas. He's blaming the Latino gangs. Okay. All right. The Venezuelans. Yeah. The MS-13. Oh yeah, they're bringing in the drugs and they doing all. Man, Esau, you the one doing this shit, man. You allowing this shit to go down. Okay. That whole thing with freeway Ricky Ross, man. It was the CIA that was supplying him the cocaine to make into crack to sell in the black and Latino neighborhoods, man. Okay? It says, these things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes. Yeah. And that's what's happening, yo. You know, you know, it's spiritually now with the prophets out there prophesying the downfall of America, prophesying the downfall of the so-called white man going into slavery and the other heathen nations, but it's going to be done physically when Yahweh sends his son, Yahweh Shai, to physically put the so-called white man into slavery, which is Esau according to the Bible. Hope you've been edified, and with that, shalom.